Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. I'm your host, Andy Goldman from sunny St. Pete, Florida. This is the show where we take it to the streets, knowing if we don't, the streets will take it to us. Welcome to Taking It to the Streets. It's Andy Goldman. This is the show that is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical. You can reach Wrightwood Medical directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That's with a W, W-R-I-G-H-T. WOOD medical.com or 773-848-7100. They are your leader in refurbished medical equipment. All right. Old friend has joined us. To the left, we had him on a few months ago. We loved it. And things have changed since it's interesting living in a digital age, how things seemingly, how much history occurs. And this is a Jose Cruz Junior, who we had on, let's just say it was 4 months ago. And I'm texting him, of course I want to have Jose Cruz Junior on, but there has to be some content of merit for, at least this is how I look at journalism, to bring him back on. And I definitely think there is. So Junior, it is great seeing you, buddy. Congrats on the 80th Soletta.
It was Bobby's positive energy around me.
See, that's where Jose and I's humble roots begin. I recant quickly. We were playing with common friends at a lost highway country club that's gorgeous. It's called Soletta. For those that know Florida, it is apropos to call it the Lost Highway. Correct, Junior? I mean, this is Mayaca City. This is the Lost Highway.
You can think to yourself at one point, where am I?
Correct.
But it's great.
Hank Williams could not write a song about Soletta. So if we dropped him off at Soletta, he would write an album. So it's the Lost Highway. It's an amazing course. It will only get more incredible as the years go on. They don't even have a clubhouse yet. It's gorgeous. It's a tough course. Very small fairways. We were playing together in a foursome, seemingly Junior and I's ball. It was symbiotic. It was total cart golf, and the rest is history. He came on the podcast. We had a great cluvehouse in the clubhouse, the makeshift clubhouse afterwards, and that's where I leave this thing off, Junior. It was never about the gambling with P. Bros. It was always about the man. We now realize that he was truly a jerk of prodigious levels. I don't know if you'll agree with that, not agree with that. That's really not the question. But the question is why did they have to hide behind the geist that it was the gambling?
Well, it's hands of lion. There's a lot.
It's not about the gambling.
There's a lot. I think one of the worst things you could do in sports, but definitely in baseball, is the gambling part. So every spring training, like the first thing that you're told is about gambling. It's like the first thing. Not only is it gambling on your sport, but also just gambling offshore, doing anything that it could be suspect, you're absolutely not to do. Like, so you don't get yourself in this position. So the integrity of the game is the most important part. I mean, we're seeing some issues still in baseball that with Class A, and then we had some stuff going on in NBA that was crazy. So it's like nobody's above the game, and there's never a time and place where you can compromise the integrity of the game, like period. So that was, I think, where Pete got himself in trouble, right? You just couldn't do that. You just can't do that. On top of that, even with him being probably the greatest, hit getter in the world.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. And as a fellow switch hitter, you appreciate it even more of what he was able to do. He was definitely a stubborn man, very stubborn. My experiences with him were probably different than what you suggested. He was one of the guys, definitely proud, definitely an instigator when he just started to mess with you, just poke fun at you, but in a locker room type way, always good. I think my dad enjoyed him. I got a chance to talk to him quite a bit. But yeah, definitely a proud man about it. He had he been a little bit more
Contrite.
Yeah, I would say contrite about it. Just play the game a little bit more politically with the C League, and at the time, just to be able to just, hey, I'm very sorry, whatever, just kind of tone it down a little bit. But he didn't really do that too much. He was definitely his own guy. He did what he thought, and that was that.
And Junior, his argument is a flawed argument, correct? Which is I didn't bet against my team. I bet on my team. That's a very flawed argument. That is that's a toss out in the court of law in baseball opinion.
Right. You can't gamble on baseball, and it doesn't matter if it's on your team to win or not. It's actually worse. I guess the worst thing you could do is bet on your team to lose, right? That's probably the ultimate. Just slap in the face to the game. But it just is what it is. He shouldn't have done it to begin with. There's other things you could do. And it was unfortunate.
Did you find yourself in the World Series? How does it work for a guy like you? Spent the majority of his career with Toronto. Do you wear your Blue Jays hat on when it comes to a World Series moment? You're rooting for these guys. Or do you go back to your childhood team, which was probably, of course, Houston? And where does an old slugger like yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely a tough one. I saw Sean Green also going through some similar things like that when he's talking about these two teams right before the World Series. I'm sure he was torn, and we both were able to play for both teams. I mean, he had an unbelievable Dodger career, right? Sean Green's a borderline Hall of Famer, in my opinion. So it was, look, I go to Toronto every year a lot. I have definitely a little bit more, I would say, just connections and to that team and that city than I do the Dodgers. But I mean, with that being said, it's like there's plenty of Houston connects there in LA. I had some teammates that were coaching there. They have some great guys. I think their president, his last name, he's from Houston. We went to similar, almost high schools that are almost very close to each other. He went to the same high school as my kids.
The guy for the Dodgers or for the
president?
Friedman?
Yep. Friedman.
Yeah.
So Friedman, sorry. It was like,
he's amazing, from Tampa.
Yeah, from Tampa. So, but he's from Houston. Like, he went to high school here, right?
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So he's my interactions with him has been great. The guy's been awesome. Great guy to talk to. Has some other buddies. I think Raul Ibanez is in that organization. Dave Roberts is class, man. So it's just like it's a great group, man. It's a great group of guys over there, and the team, without a doubt, is spectacular, man. They're unbelievable team. I mean, I thought I had my hot take was the Dodgers and the Blue Jays are going to be in the World Series, and I thought the Dodgers were the team to beat. I just thought they were the team to beat. They were the most talented. They're battle tested. I thought the closer Sasaki, right? That was the closer.
Yeah.
When I saw him pitch there, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a nightmare for anybody. And then their starting guys are, I mean, amazing. I mean, their first pitcher is a Hall of Famer, man.
Right.
It's like they're really good. They're just really good up and down. I mean, and kudos to Moogie Betts. I mean, how do you go from right field, to end up playing shortstop in the World Series later in your career? That's incredible. Like, I never heard of such a thing. So, I mean, Freddie Freeman, Ohtani,
that whole thing, and it wasn't. I don't. Might have been a World Series, but it's funny you jogged that my memory about Mookie Betts making that migration from the outfield to the infield. Would have been the opposite, which I would think is easier with Robin Yount. I think Robin Yount did it, and he was great and a total stud.
Yeah.
But regardless, you're naming big names, and it's a party of two here with Betts and Yount. I personally think Yount was just unbelievable.
But I don't even know if it's a party of two, because usually you go from the infield to the outfield, right? Like Tatis went from shortstop to right field, right? and he's great, and it's amazing. But to go from the outfield to shortstop,
Might be part of your one.
that's the outside of catcher for me. It's like that is the hardest, most demanding defensive position on the field, right? You have to be so good. These guys that are at the major league level playing defense at shortstop are so good. It's incredible, right? You had a shortstop that was probably, you could argue he's better defender than Mookie Betts playing second base in Rojas, and he makes an unbelievable play at second base to save the game.
No, totally.
Apart from tying the game with a homer in the top of the ninth, which is like, I mean, I think I saw Dave Roberts' reaction to it. He almost fell out of his chair, fell backwards. He couldn't believe it. So it's just, it goes to show how hard the shortstop position is, for any defender. But for Mookie to be able to do that is spectacular in my eyes.
What blew you away on the Rojas play more? Rojas kind of double hitching to go home with it, or the catcher knowing that he was grazing his left foot on the plate.
Having the wherewithal.
Yeah, baseball IQ to get that foot back onto the plate. I think he's kind of
all of it.
God man is the catcher in that scenario.
All of it. I'll go with the play as tougher. That play was unbelievable. To be infield in, really hard grounder, backhand, knee down, come back up and fire a strike.
And you're all in. You're all in.
All in. And that runner's running.
He's all
running his life, right? So it's just bang, bang. Everything has to be perfect. The catcher to be able to have the wherewithal to make sure he stepped on the plate. And it was so close when he did.
Oh my God.
Like, thank God for instant replay. Okay. So we don't have to, talk about that play or have any doubts.
Correct.
I got it right. The umpires got it right. Instant replay was wonderful there. So that play, I mean, on top of him, Rojas hitting the homer in the ninth, I mean, I could not. It just goes to show how much of that team effort it was. And let's just say, how does Yamamoto throw 6 innings, 96 pitches, come back in game 7 and throw 2 1/3 or whatever it was, something like that, 2 1/3 or 2 2/3, something like that he threw, and won the game. He won game 6 and 7. That's crazy. I've never seen it in my life.
Never have. And I did a little side research on that because I was so blown away by that as well. I guess in Asia, specifically in Japan, that's more of a commonality where they'll pitch a guy on short rest. So, to us as Americans, watching a guy come in after 96 pitches, of course, it was game 7 of the World Series. Everybody's all in. But, I mean, we're still of a...
That's not even... I wouldn't even consider it rest.
Yeah, well, you couldn't.
He did not rest. He threw 96 pitches the day. If you did it in college, you get fired. You do it in pro ball, you're gone, right? I mean, backs against the wall, World Series, the game 7, everything counts, right?
Yeah.
We'll look away on that one. But I mean, what he was able to do on top of coming back, having the want to come back, having his body recover enough for him to come back, he was still throwing 97. Oh, and he had command. I couldn't believe it.
No, it was unreal. It was unreal.
I was just like, and then they won. It's like, that's why they won. I mean, Snell coming in to pitch. I mean, all their starters came in. They showed up, man. They gave the Dodgers every chance, everything they had to win, which I thought was pretty spectacular. And no knock on Toronto, man. I mean, Vladdy, you saw the kind of player he is and the heart that he put in, man. How good.
How about Bichette's homer?
Bichette was. I mean, I was like, my jaw dropped when he hit that ball. I was like, oh no. And that was so far. What a bomb. I mean, what a that.
Jacked it over center field.
And then how about Will Smith catching every inning and hitting a homer in extra innings? I mean, he was incredible. Like there's no way he had any juice left in his legs. No. And for him to be able to do that and that play, I was like almost thinking, man, that maybe he's the MVP because of what he's been able to do to keep that group together. Not only just be that seems like the heartbeat, but he showed up, man. He showed up. He did unbelievable things defensively and offensively.
Yeah.
So,
right, Junior,
that's why they won, man.
What about the call in game 6? Okay. My understanding of ground rule double, being from close to the north side of Chicago, growing up in the north side of Chicago, the modern day, let's just call it the last 35 years of how the ground rule double has evolved, the ball being obstructed by something under a fence, is from Chicago. It's from Wrigley Field, where the ball would get lost in the friendly confines, and you don't want an athlete fishing out and acting like a gardener in right center and at Wrigley Field. It's inane.
We'll run around. It's just,
No. So that's to me is the modern day beginning of what we now call the ground rule double.
Okay.
Now we'll never know. I don't give the outfield. You're a manager now. I don't. The outfielder is doing his job to try to aggressively sell the ground rule double to the ump. The ump can then, and there's video proof of other games where the ump has said, play on, you're not getting the ground rule double. The whole ball was showing, Junior. Why is he awarded that ground rule double? Which really,
all those little nuances in every field are discussed before the game at every single, that whole meeting that they have at the plate.
interesting. So walk me through what give me a what if. Like,
Every field has its own thing. Some fields, there's been, some fields they're like, hey, if I can see the ball, you got to play it, right? In other fields, they might have the chain link fence or whatever, and if it gets stuck in there, then you just put your hands up. In other fields, there's been, when there used to be a lot of natural fields, there still are here without domes. There's the tarp, right? If it hits the tarp, dead. In other fields, if it hits the tarp and I can see the ball, you got to get it. Things like that. Then it becomes, the obstruction of a fan, or if depending on where the ball hit and it goes over, it's up to the judgment of the umpire.
So the crew chief, you think at the beginning said, guys, if it's stuck in any way underneath any portion of the outfield, I am going to award the ground rule double, both sides.
Yes, they all know the rules, so they know if you need to go get it, go get it. A lot of times it's like, if you put your hands up, don't touch it, because the moment you go touch it, it's game on.
And thinking back on it, as angered as I kind of was because I wanted to see him have to play on, Schneider didn't come out and object because of exactly what you just said. I think Schneider was probably told at the beginning, the stakes are real high tonight, and any obstruction is a ground rule double.
These are the rules. If that ball's stuck, done. Put your hands up.
Junior, where do you fall in that kind? When you saw it, did you kind of want to see it played through, or did you think it was a genuine ground rule double scenario?
It's just what the field basically commands, and if that's what it is, that's what it's decided. Both teams are playing with the same rules, and that particular play happens. Done.
Yeah, you don't have a feel either way.
And it's times you don't know how much a ball is stuck in that type of fence. It could be like you try to grab and you got to really pull out because it's just halfway in or whatever. So it just, if that's the rule at the beginning of the game, it's probably better. It's probably a double, and just stop it and move along.
What do you make now that we are fully ensconced in the digital era of umpires really being weeded out, the thing going completely AI for conversations like this won't take place? I mean, I look at one of the dark, and there's nothing we could do about it, but I was talking about it with one of my past guests, Chris Myers, about, what was the worst call in baseball history. And then for me, it's June 2nd, 2010, when Armando Galarraga, who's a 4.78 career pitcher, gets screwed out of a perfect game because Jim Joyce doesn't know how to call who's out.
I mean, Jim's pretty good up, man. He was a good up. He saw it a certain way and he got it wrong.
And he admitted it. And he admitted it to us.
The umpires that I've talked to love instant replay. They love it, man, because you know what? The last thing they want to do is have something like that, be part of their reputation or whatever. They don't want that.
Is that the worst call ever? When you think about the magnitude of it? Specifically to Armando?
That was one of the calls I thought of when you mentioned it right away. 1985 Cardinals.
Yeah. That's what I thought of too with the Royals.
With the Royals, that changed everything.
Yeah. Those two stick out
right now. I'm sure I haven't thought about it, but I'm sure there's some other pretty horrible calls. that we're missing. But
Why would the umps want to make friends with AI? You know, the Hollywood actors don't want to make friends with AI. They know that's the death of them. So why would umps want to buddy up with AI knowing that it truly is the death of them if you think about it as well?
You mean you're talking about an electronic, basically computerized type game?
Yeah, across the
As far as calls.
Yeah.
I just think that the strike zone isn't that easy to make it all electronic. I think there's more to that, right? We have this conversation and they're talking about the TrackMan zone and all these things, right? But the TrackMan zone is like in I'm not exactly I'm gonna miss, I'm sure, but it's about 17 inches, if not 18, from the ground up, right? That's when the box starts. Then it goes up to like 40 something inches, 40, maybe 42 or something like that. So it goes up maybe 43, somewhere in there, right? So you have this skew of where the strike zone is, and I guess they can try and shrink it a little bit if you're Altuve, you know, and then I mean, how big is the strike zone for Judge? So it's just like, and then what about Soto? I mean, he's so hunched down low. It's like, what makes sense for him, right? Well, how are you going to call his strike zone? So it's not that easy to just, you know, say, hey, here it is, here's what we have. Or you say, this is a universal strike zone. I don't care how tall you are or how short you are. Here's what it is. We're going 17 inches across. It's 17 inches up, and it's whatever, 17 inches up, right? Boom, boom, boom. No matter what. Then you got to figure out how deep do you want to put that? Is it a window pane or is it a 3D box, right? And it's like, when in that range does that ball need to touch, and how much of the ball needs to touch in order for that to be considered a strike, right? So those are that starts to get into like real technical how you're going to figure that out, because it's like, where do you stand on the plate? Does where you stand on the plate matter or not? Because a lot of the times the strike zone you see on TV, they're not taking into consideration where the batter is, right? So the batter could scoot up or the batter could scoot back. It changes everything of where the strike zone is, right? So that's why it's like, I don't know how simple it is to just create some sort of electronic strike zone and have it work for everybody. There's gonna be lots of misses. And then in the minors right now, which is gonna be really, really interesting once they get to the big leagues, where the guys have, you know, 2 or 3 where they can check the replay themselves. They like tap their helmet and they're like, no, that was a ball. Or, you know, the umpire called it a strike and they go, no, that was a ball and I want to check it. And so they're like, the umpire checks it, they put it on the board, they have their hawk eye, and here comes the ball, and you see where the ball is. The catcher can do it, the pitcher can do it, the hitter can do it. And that was, they had it in AAA, and I was watching my son do it, and it was fascinating to watch these.
Wow. It's fascinating to hear. Is there a cap on how many times you can stop a game?
Yeah, there is. It's either 2 or 3. In AAA was 2, like team ones. Like 2, that's it. And if you got it right, then it didn't count. So
Or the red flag in the NFL.
Kind of like that, but it's done by a player, not a manager. The manager doesn't go like this. No, the player he just goes on himself and goes, check it. It's a ball.
So Junior, if I'm reading you right, it seems like you still like the human element of the game, or not? Do you? I like me where I'd like to see it converted more to the AI.
I think there's that. And to the umpire's credit, for the most part, they do get like a 97% of the calls right, I would say, which is kind of fascinating to watch because it is so fast and so close. So they do, for the most part, do a pretty good job, man. There are nights, no doubt, where the zone is in question, you know, and guys have terrible games at the plate. They do, and that's when all this conversation start happening, because guys just miss too many calls and it's just too important to do that. I mean, I just don't know how that's gonna fix itself. I mean, maybe technology keeps getting better, right? So it's a possibility. But I think the human element, I think the strike zone in particular is probably best left to the umpire. It also brings into play the art of strike stealing and pitch receiving and framing, because if that's not an art anymore, right? It's going to be a lesser game if your catcher can't frame, right? It's just all he has to do, the pitcher has to just hit the computer strike zone, and we're good, right? I mean, it's like you can argue it.
Junior, I've had on quite a few coaches, NFL and NCAA coaches on this podcast, and is it fair to say that they've all echoed on this conversation that there's the media gloms on to the coaches fraternity, and how a bad coach seemingly finds a job elsewhere and blah 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 is covered up by his fellow brethren that are coaches, managers, whomever, in the NFL. But they tell me, make no mistake, the refereeing fraternity is tighter than the coaches fraternity, because they don't have to deal with this kind of thing where actually a podcaster or Fox or ESPN confronts them about the issue. So would you agree in baseball that the umping community is also is tighter than the manager community?
I think they're like anybody else, right? They have their own union. They're just like any other union.
But who do they answer to?
MLB, man. They answer to MLB.
So they will answer to Rob and his people.
Yep.
Regarding their performance.
That's right. So they have their own agreement. Yeah. So they answer to MLB and whoever's in charge. Yeah.
What's going to happen in 26, Junior, with the CBA? Are we looking at a lockout?
I mean, there's a lot of rumbles about it, but I mean, I hope not. There's there's plenty of money for both sides. You win some, you lose some, but you got to keep the game going, man. It's because there's no reason to stop it. There's no reason to stop it. I mean, both sides, I'm sure you can negotiate a little bit here, a little bit there, but it's like they need to figure it out. I mean,
what does your gut tell you, though?
I've been there.
You think we're staring at 1994 again?
I sure hope not, man. My gut tells me that there's too much to lose on both sides to stop it.
But it's not a ringing endorsement that we're not looking at 1990.
I mean, I'm not going to say there's 100% chance.
No.
Right. I would say 75% that it's going to be fine. It's going to keep it moving.
It's funny, between 94 and now, we're both old enough that 94 to me seems like it was yesterday. Yeah. There was so much less to fight about. That's what scares me about it, is that there was so much less to fight about, and they figured out a way to have a massive work stoppage. In 26, there actually is something to fight about. We've got all of the different streaming options, how the game is presented overseas, online, on your phone. That's frightens me, is there actually are going to be some issues at the...
I think ESPN bowing out, that's a big check, right? You got to get real creative if you're MLB on just bringing in different revenue streams and creating different markets. And, I'm sure they're a bunch of smart people up there. You got to do international things and find different markets and pockets and, put the players in the forefront. I think people like that. I think football does a pretty good job of putting the NFL guys in the national limelight in national commercials, and people start to get to know these guys. And I think the same thing could be said for baseball. It seems like it's a little more regional than it needs to be right now. And I think that's something to make it mainstream, because baseball, I mean, how exciting are the playoffs, man? They're like the baseball's like the giant soap opera, man. It's just like you keep watching it. Your guys fail, they succeed, they get hot, they get cold. It's just like to be able to ride with your team, with your city, and it's just like see that evolution of it. All of a sudden, boom, you're in the wild card team won the World Series, right? So it's like to watch them in Toronto's case win the American League East, right? From like nowhere last year to winning the East. That's a gigantic story, man. They beat the Yankees. You know, it's a heck of a year, man. They had a great year.
This brings me to the question. One of my final questions is, and I'm sure this will be, talked about at the CBA. There's going to have to be the recognition of how dominant of an alpha the NFL is, and how can we most be like the NFL? Well, the NFL is appointment viewing every single week by having one game on Sunday. They own a day of the week. Yep. It really gets watered down with the 162 game schedule, but yet, to your point, my wife, friends, we were glued to these playoffs. These playoffs were as intense and enjoyable as any NFL playoff game, not regular season. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know what your feelings are on the 162 game schedule. And baseball is also very steeped in tradition and history, and they get very weird. From my
they do
that conversation.
I proposed a Monday off, only used to play games that might have been rained out somewhere, and then 3-game series only.
I would love that. I think that was a great solution.
And it's like, if you do it for 6 months, you know, you're not losing that many games. It would be like, I don't know, like 155 games for the season or something like that. It wasn't like a crazy loss, as opposed to maybe extending the year and having more off days and just kind of dragging things out. Spring training.
You're looking at a lifelong White Sox fan. Okay.
Oh God.
Are you?
You know how I know you're a White Sox fan? Because you said you were. Because there's nobody that's like
would admit it publicly.
Yeah, would admit it publicly.
I know it's embarrassing. It's a birth defect. But the thing is, Junior, even a guy like me, are you realistically going to get a White Sox fan to watch 3 against Tampa in a 1 week period and 4 against Minnesota?
Yeah.
I mean, there has to be some rationality in the logic in the room that someone's got to set up and say, of course you're not. And they matter. The White Sox are part of the league and actually have a lot of tradition, that team. So, you know, if you're not good, they're not good. And how long do I got to wait for the Sox to be relevant, Junior? You told me on the golf course I'm not going to have to wait that long. But they actually made a big improvement this year.
Yeah, I mean, it takes time, man. It takes time. I mean, they've been bad here for a bit. I mean, it depends on their draft, right? How good of a draft do they get? Are they willing to spend some money and maybe fill in some gaps from free agents, and be a very competitive team? I mean, your division right now, I mean, the top dogs are
Cleveland.
The top dog is Cleveland. All right. I mean, if you look at them for the last 20 years or whatever, 15 years, let's say, I mean, they're the top team in that division. Yeah. Their record, I mean, they're probably top 5 winning percentage or best records in baseball overall. Really, if you start looking diving deep into the Indians, you're like, what in the world are they doing? It's kind of fascinating to see what they're doing, because they pull off some good stuff. I mean, from Cy Young Award winners to Gold Glovers and everything. They do a really good job.
But Jose, think about how deflating, if at the CBA once again, of the situation we're in right now, where you have a team like Tampa, where not in the distant past they had drafted Glasnow and Snell. They can't keep either of those two guys. They both end up on the team that wins the World Series. Here's a team, Tampa, playing.
But they didn't address Glasnow.
$80 million payroll. They have the brains. They year after year have the best farm system, which is kind of a left-handed compliment. And what are we to make of a Tampa? How does a Tampa that knows how to draft talent but can't pay it the talent?
Yeah, they're finding ways to be creative and competitive. They were doing a lot of really good things with guys. I mean, from the Charlie Mortons, right, to the Glasnow. I mean, Glasnow is a Pirate, right? The Pirates are the ones that drive people crazy, because they're like, you know, you had Cole, I mean, Glasnow and Morton. They're all Pirates, right?
Good names up all day.
They're, I mean, very talented. Like they're doing good things as far as picking the talent, right? So it's just a matter of how do you get them to maximize them when you're there. which is I guess everybody's trying to do.
Right.
They end up going to Tampa. Tampa always finds something. They're really good at movement patterns, man. They do a really good job with that and just identifying them and developing them to be and using them in a certain way. I mean, here aren't they the first ones really to start using the opener and just start creating a little bit different way? They did a lot of that, so they're pretty creative about it. And to compete in the AL East, how they have. They're I mean, great. I mean, kudos to Cash and that group, man, to be able to.
Do you like what he does, Junior, with monkeying around with the bullpen?
Like, I enjoy it, man. I had to talk. You know, Kev was a Blue Jay. He was an original Blue Jay. I was there with him when he debuted and the whole deal, and we got a nice chance to to chat about those things because I couldn't understand it, but after I spoke to him. You know, it's like it sparked all kinds of things with me. It's like it's the equivalent of was it a Chip Kelly who decided to move some linemen down by the wide receiver and just change the norm just because you could, right? And it created a little bit of a like
why not? Why not use the tight end for the tush push instead of your quarterback?
That's crazy, right? It's something like that. So it's like, so he was like, basically in a way. They were treating, but which is all baseball now, by the way. They were treating that every inning almost independently, and almost like the first inning might have been like the ninth inning, and there's no differentiating between those two. So forget any closer roles or any of those things.
Which way do you like it though, Junior? You know, I had on the author of the book, The Last Manager. It was a book about Earl Weaver. He literally saves the last chapter to talk about what's the antithesis in the modern day to Earl Weaver. Earl Weaver was a stand by your man kind of manager on and off the field. Mm-hmm. Doesn't even do it justice to call it old school. It's beyond old school. And he came up with Kevin Cash, that Earl would retire before he would be Kevin Cash. So which way do you like it? Do you like going with Scott McGregor and Mike Flanagan and Storm Davis? Now, those are good baseball players.
Yeah, they're great.
And Earl felt very confident going eight or nine innings.
Yeah. Different game, man. I don't think Weaver's game would have survived today's game, right?
Can't go with a guy for 8 innings?
I think that the data would show that it's probably to the detriment of your team, probably to the detriment of your pitcher. If he's depending on the pitch count and everything, if he's pitching into the 8th and 9th, if he's in the 8th throwing and he's like at 120 pitches, probably not the best idea for him to do that all the time, right? It's just not. And again, the guys from that time pitched better, right? They moved the ball around. They were more pitchers. The guys today are a little bit more, they have more stuff, right? So there's more stuff going on.
I got you.
Exertion of force and torque is just a little bit more. So it's a different game. And the same can be said about the lineups. They're just like a little bit more explosive. The athletes are a little better. Technique's a little better. You know, anybody can hit a homer, you know, at any given time.
So Ron Guidry, Lamar Hoyt, those are real pitchers. Those guys are built to go 9 innings all day, every 5th day. They are ready. Those guys don't exist anymore.
Very few, man. Very, very few, I would say, do that anymore. But I mean, again, it's a longevity thing. It's longevity. Plus, now it's like how many Tommy Johns are going on now, as opposed to 30 years ago or 40 years ago. It's different. It's just Tommy John back then was like, oh my God, my career is over. Tommy John now is like, yes, we'll draft him in the 1st round. He got Tommy John now. He's going to be awesome. You know, so it's just like, it's different. It's just different. And it's like, you have to think about 27 outs. It's just, if we're going to like argue for the Kevin Cash style, it would be like, you have 27 outs and you got to figure out how to get 27 outs. Forget the 9th and forget the 1st and the 5th and forget that for now. Now, how are you going to just scotch tape 27 outs, right? You have a young starter who's got really good stuff. Do you want him facing the top of the lineup 3 times? Or would you rather him face the bottom half of the lineup 3 times, right?
The ladder.
So yeah, so it's like you end up getting whatever reliever matches up against that top of the lineup, right? And see how he does and attack it like that, like it's a relief inning, like it's the 7th, but it's the 1st. And then and if he throws 12 pitches, hell, hey, go out the next inning and see what you got. And then he throws. If he goes to that inning, great. If he gets an out, guys on first or whatever, then bring in somebody else to mop up that inning, and then the starter starts in the 3rd, or maybe he starts in the 2nd, right? So then the starter can throw 4 or 5 innings. He doesn't get to have to face the top of the lineup 3 times. He gets to face him twice, right? Gets the bottom of the lineup, right? So all of a sudden, you got yourself 5 innings, and now you're in the 7th, right? And so it's like, now I got 2 really good bullets in the bullpen. We can win this game. So it's just a way of looking at how you go about the game that day and who's available and all those things.
Final question. What's your favorite baseball movie ever?
Well,
and that's a kind of that's a good question, because I don't, they're almost like fairy tales. I know in your brain,
Yeah.
they're so great.
what is the do you remember the one
Mine easily is Field of Dreams.
mine was, I always go to Major League, the first one, part 1.
Wow.
I watched that movie so much. I would just, the whole story, the cast of characters, you got no chance. The owner wants to sell the team. You're traveling in a plane with a propeller that has, electrical tape on it. It's just the whole deal, man. It's just like the cast of characters. You got this guy that's almost like a ex-felon. You got the guy that's like an investor. You got the guy that's old, that's just hanging on. You have the guy that's just starting there and is really eager. The guy who's super talented but doesn't know what the heck he's doing. Old pitchers using Vaseline every which way. Another guy throwing gas. It's like all the cast of characters. That's what I like about it.
All right, so I can't resist. What's your favorite football movie?
Any given Sunday.
For the Titans, or We Are Marshall, or Friday Night Lights guy?
Any given Sunday.
Any given Sunday, which I think to an ex-player like you, is very realistic.
And how we're coach and everything on and off the field. And again, the egos involved and what you're dealing with and how he motivates his team, and some of those speeches that are given in that movie
Is Jerry Maguire at all realistic towards the process, the relationship between agent and player?
It can be, yeah. There's some things to that, and some guys like that more than others. Others just care about the contract. Others care about the relationship. Having a guy in their corner that's going to be with them forever. So it's like, it varies. But yeah, there's some truth to that Jerry Maguire stuff. Yeah.
Junior, you're the best. I can't wait to have you on for next baseball season.
Sounds good, man.
Great seeing you. Folks, stay tuned. Mike and I will be up next with our picks. This episode of Taking It to the Streets is brought to you by Wrightwood Medical, the leader in used and refurbished medical equipment. Wrightwood specializes in ultrasound equipment, but can also be your vendor of choice when sourcing lower cost alternatives for your operating room suites, scanning the entire medical spectrum. From single physician offices to larger hospitals, Wrightwood is the lower cost solution for your everyday medical equipment needs, and all of Wrightwood's equipment comes with warranty. You can reach Wrightwood directly at www.wrightwoodmedical.com. That is with a W, WRIGHTWOOD medical, or 773-848-7100. Again, 773-848-7100. If it's used medical equipment, it's Wrightwood Medical. Welcome back to Taking It to the Streets. Jose Cruz Junior, what a man. And he loves coming to the streets, playing it straight, told us his thoughts bluntly and just as you would expect, like he would bring it here on Taking It to the Streets. The guy's a straight shooter, and we love having him. It's not the same discourse. It's just like what you got with Chris Myers. I mean, when you come to the streets, you got to become without wearing your network hat and the corporate answers. I appreciate so much that these guys take to that and understand kind of what we're looking for. It might be a little uncomfortable, some of the questions that we ask, because they walk the line, but to their credit, they do a great job. Now, folks, we need you to subscribe. You like these guests we bring? I get a lot of nice texts and emails. I appreciate it from you. On the Wrightwood Medical website, we're inundated with taking it to the streets questions, which is great. But please subscribe. You like when we bring on Chris Myers. You like when we bring on Roy Firestone. You like when we bring on these authors to talk about strange things like Titanic Thompson and Earl Weaver. You like Rich Bean. There'll be no junk email. There'll be no phone calls. There'll be no hand outstretched asking you for a donation. Just subscribe. That's all I ask. And we'll keep on doing it for you. Of course, Mike McLaughlin joins me. Here we go, Mike, into week 12. Interesting observations from last week. I'll go first. The rule book. I am not a conspiracy theorist in life, in politics, in sports, but it's starting to get to be a bigger book of, oh my gods, with Kansas City always seemingly getting the call. Now, it didn't help them against Denver, but if you were watching that game down the stretch, Denver's in about a 3rd and 7. They clearly get the first down. This is a back-breaking moment for Kansas City in a tie game. And they clearly get it by a half yard, and they mark him short of the line to gain. Now, thankfully, we have review because they were able to unequivocally. I'm still scratching my bald head about how the Josh Allen in the AFC playoff title game last year, how they've ever figured out that Josh was, after looking at it, they found that Josh did not make the line to gain. I'm still trying to understand the block in the back against Cincinnati in the AFC title game at Arrowhead. There's a lot of them. It's starting to add up, Mike, with how this team, and I understand the league wants them in the playoffs. They want the pan shot to Taylor Swift, and that's fine. We could talk about that and take it to the streets. I try to press Chris Myers and things like that. They can't come out and say that at the network level. They want that pan shot worse than anything. Maybe not as bad as they want Chicago over Carolina, who are the same teams. They can't tell you how badly they want Chicago for the media market size, but they want Chicago. They do not want Carolina. And they don't have to walk the line of conspiracy with regard to the Bears because the Bears have just been winning games. But Mike, am I crazy? They're trying to breathe air into a DOA-ish Kansas City right now. Kansas City to me feels like Mike Tyson at the end with Buster Douglas. This feels like round 9 to me.
I don't think that's the case at all. I mean, I think the refereeing is just shitty, to be honest. I think it's bad. That wasn't even close to the worst call of the weekend. The
one with Detroit with the pass interference, that was
outrageous. That was as bad of a call.
Yeah. Because that keeps the game going. And that's about home field advantage implications for Detroit. Detroit, bottom line, they're borderline DOA too. I mean,
yeah. I mean, there wasn't a quarterback I would have had less confidence in going down and driving than Goff on that particular night. But I mean, you cannot make that call in that situation.
No,
if you were going to call it,
totally agree with you.
You're going to call it, period. You should have called it on Brown. I mean, he pushed out. I mean, it's like, the rules are already set up for offenses to dominate games because points, are what people want to see. But we have figured out this year, and I will be interested in seeing what rule changes come out to help even out, because with teams like Denver, Houston, Philadelphia, I know you were saying Fangio is not a difference maker. He's been a difference maker the last 2 weeks. I mean, they have dominated teams.
I also said last week, when can we unequivocally call Chip Kelly a bum?
Well,
when does that day happen?
It'll be interesting to see whether he keeps the job or whether the whole group gets tossed, because Pete Carroll looks, he's sympathetic gum, but he doesn't. he doesn't look like he's got it. But they're not a very good team. I mean, that's the biggest
Mike,
problem.
I don't understand. I digress for a moment. For the life of me, they're playing the Dallas Cowboys last night. Okay, who has a much more high-powered offense? We can all agree than the Las Vegas Raiders. I thought that Chip would come out with Gianti, who's more than proven himself the week before against Denver, a much better defense. And for whatever reason, they stopped running him in the second half of that ball game, and the Raiders go on to lose that game by a head bob. They were in that game the whole way. I would have thought they were going to be pounding Gianti last night, okay, against Dallas to keep them off the field.
When did you think they were in that game?
Which game?
But you're talking about the Cowboys and the Raiders? You thought the Raiders were?
No. I'm talking about when the Raiders played the Broncos.
Oh, okay.
Before they're into the mini bye.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at Genti had 6 rushes for
something. Right, but what I was saying is that what I'm saying is that I would have figured that the game plan would have been we pound Genti. You don't. First off, you don't take a running back ever unless you're taking him for a taxi squad. If I'm the GM. But if you're stupid enough to be taking a running back in the first round, if you're not using him last night to establish the run against Dallas, who you want to keep on the sideline as much as you can, why did you draft him? Why did you draft Genti that high? Are you frightened of the Dallas Cowboys rush defense? Give me a break. You're scared to run him into Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams?
Quentin Williams had his best game of the year last night. I mean, it was a sack and a half, but that's against a bad. I mean, it's a bad setup.
Mike, Chip came out and cleared the ball 13 times in a row.
I'm not defending the Raiders, but what I'm saying is to say Dallas's defense is the same defense that it was 2 weeks ago is unfair because they've gotten it all.
No, they improved. But it's the first time that they've played together. Yes, they come off of a bye. It doesn't refute my point that the at least either I don't know anything about football or Chip Kelly doesn't. You folks, you have to make your mind up. Okay, I would have thought, I want to dumb this down for the dumbest out there.
I'm going to take Chip Kelly in this conversation, but
okay, maybe Chip knows less.
He knows and a lot more than I do. Okay. I can agree with that, but that's not it wasn't a good game plan.
The question is why take Genti when you take him if you're not going to use him hardcore last night, and B, why do you throw the ball 13 times in a row? As if you're going to go up and down the field with Trey Tucker as your number 1 wide receiver and Geno Smith as your number 1 quarterback. I need those answered if I was paying the bills. So, again, either he knows something I don't know or I know something he doesn't know, but I would have thought it would have been pound Genti. That's the reason why we took a running back high in the NFL draft. I don't know, Mike. I mean, maybe I'm crazy.
No, I think Dallas's defensive backs are as bad as any in the league. So I think they looked at it with the increase with Williams going there that they had a better chance at throwing the ball. Didn't work out. I mean, Geno has been off all year. I mean, he's not, that Darnold trade, but for the last 2 weeks has looked like not even a trade, but trading Smith to the Las Vegas in order to pick up Darnold has looked like, they just got taken advantage of because Geno has regressed to pre-punch in the face Geno. But I don't know what's going on in Oakland. I mean, you watched a couple of times like Max Crosby was out there when they threw that open touchdown. He's literally their only asset on defense. And then Brock Bowers is probably literally their only asset on offense. I mean, that is a talent poor team, in my opinion. And I think there's more than a few talent core teams in this league right now. There's the haves and the have-nots. And so I really think that Chip Kelly's definitely got to be done, but I'll be curious to see whether Pete Carroll goes with him because, he's 70. He's a young-looking 70, but he's still 70. And, his son is the offensive line coach. Their offensive line is terrible. The Raiders are not going to be good for a long time, and it's not a quick fix. And they're going to have to start considering, unloading a guy like Crosby Because if you can get a Parsons-like deal, that's how you do it. I mean, I know, the Mark Davis and his cool haircut, want to be relevant in Vegas, and he likes having cool white guys on his team, but where are you going? And, he could probably command 2 first-round picks. If Sauce Gardner can get 2 first-round picks, Max Crosby could get more than that. So I think they're going to have to make some decisions in the offseason, because they're not 1 or 2 guys away.
No, but Mike, I mean, you can beat up on Kelly. I beat up on him all the time on this show because I think he's been absolutely terrible. And there's no other way of putting it. He looks great when he's at Ohio State and he's playing with children, against children. And, and you give him the best children to play with versus average children, then boy, does he look like he's something that looks like Yellow Jacket material. But
Yeah.
now we're playing big boy game and we're playing big boy football and everybody's a millionaire on the field, and he's absolutely been undressed. Now, I think the GM needs to go, just like I think the AD needs to go, who hires
Wait a minute. How would you fire the GM? He's been on the job for less than a year. I mean, he stepped into a terrible position. The guy,
Well, here's why I would do it. Here's why I would do it.
because he drafted a running back, but
Yes. When the running back, when they show stat, when they show stat, Mike, right, when they show a stat that says he's gaining 1.8 yards before contact, okay, that tells a normal person that they might have deficiency on the offensive line. That's the reason why. So he's not running behind the Carolina offensive line. He's not running behind the Chicago offensive line, the teams that actually have built an offensive line. So that's the grounds for the dismissal. Okay, I wouldn't be out if I was the GM of the Raiders, taking my future with Gianti and thinking I'm a player away. So that's just my 2 cents. They're an offensive line away, and they can run with Kyle Monangai, okay, from the Chicago Bears, doing just fine with Kyle Monangai when DeAndre Swift is out. And, Rico Dowdle's putting up Earl Campbell numbers.
So I'm going to take exception, because you've been saying all year that all these teams can win with crappy quarterbacks like Jacoby Brissett, that they can all win with Joe Flacco. They've won some games. But when it comes down to it, after a couple games, a backup quarterback is a backup quarterback for a reason. And you do not win long term with.
Right, but I'm not talking about the runner back, Mike. I'm not talking about quarterbacks.
No, but I'm calling you on everything, because you're saying no good running backs. Don't agree with that. There are good running backs. There are good offensive lines make good running backs great running backs. But there is such a thing as a good running back. There is such a thing as mediocre quarterbacks. There aren't a lot of good quarterbacks. But saying like, oh, this team can win with Joe Flacco, this team can win with Jacoby Brissett. No, they show themselves out over the course of a year. So I think that firing Spytek because he drafted a running back is insane. And I think that if you're going to build a program, you've got to figure out where your deficiencies are. And he did a bad job in his first year. If he takes a running back again in the first round, that would be my point.
Rick, he got the job. What tape was he watching that they're moving people on the offensive line?
Again, I never agreed with taking a running back, but you don't fire a GM who's been on the job for less than 9 months. That's what shitty organizations do, and that's what
I understand. They're not going to get better by doing that.
The Raiders are a bad organization, and that's the kind of move that they would make. So it wouldn't surprise.
I get that. Because that's the same, right? That's the same place that an Auburn University is at in football, playing 4 coaches currently to be their head coach.
So are the Panthers, who you seem to think are such great shakes. They're still playing they're playing the guy from Nebraska. They're playing the guy who's coaching at Stanford. They're paying one other guy before that. So I mean, there's a lot of bad organizations in the NFL, and there's a lot of poorly run organizations. And there's the good ones are few and far between.
Yeah. Very true. All right, folks. So we're going to move on to our picks for the week. We're going to go off of each other this week. So I'll make a pick. Mike will make a pick. Going into this week, Mike is, forgive me, he's 19-14. He is 58%. That is a great number.
How when you go 0-3 the week before? I'm surprised I got it.
Well, it doesn't matter. We're playing for year to date, and my book 53.5, 54% is quit your job material. So 58%, again, folks, whoever you're listening to is not bringing you 58%. That is off of an 0-3. So I will look the other way. No problem with Mike on his 0-3. No excuses. He's 0-3. He's 58% for the year. Myself, 16-17 for the year, 48%. Mike, lead us off. Where are you going with your first pick?
Yeah, we were talking about this right before we started. I mean, I had every one of the games I thought was a terrible line. I mean, I was like, I don't know what to do with any of these. I don't know. Are we just missing bad teams this week? So I'm doing, against my best judgment, I'm doing something that I can't believe I'm doing, but I am taking the Jags -2.5 against the Cardinals. I don't think the Jaguars are a good team. I'm baffled every week by something stupid that they do. They keep every single team in their game. But I think like last week, Jacoby Brissett, statistically looked great. They got destroyed. I mean, they're another incompetent franchise, Arizona, and have been forever. The Bidwells are bad owners. They're cheap. They've always been cheap. And, I saw the line. I think the Cardinals are, I know it's at Arizona. They're, whatever's going on with Kyler Murray, he's on the sideline. I know he's loving it that Jacoby's not doing well. He's like the opposite of a team guy. He wants to win his way. So, and I know that Trevor Lawrence will do at least 2 or 3 stupid things during this game, but I think that they're getting Brian Thomas back, who has not been good, but I'm ready for him to break out. He broke out in the second half of last year. And I think they have really started to figure something out in the running game. Tootin had his best game of the year. You touted him at the beginning of the year. I know he got injured at the end of the game. I'm hopeful he will be playing because between he and Etienne, they had a really impressive 1-2 punch. And, their defense came alive. Now, it helped against that Chargers offensive line, which is in shambles, but they really, I was impressed by that win. So I'm taking the Jags versus the Cards.
Okay. Now, I don't like that pick, Mike, because if you don't have the Jags +3 at home with a team coming 3 time zones over, don't like laying 2.5 the week after when they go as the away team 3 time zones over. So that's just my 2 cents. Of course, I had the Jags over the Chargers, and I'm of the belief that when those 3 time zone over games, especially when we're going west to east, especially somehow, some way, I've got to get you folks the stat on that. It looks a lot like the Chargers versus the Jaguars. It's a huge disadvantage to kick off. That's not what Mike's situation is with Arizona.
No, the body clock is much different.
Yeah.
Going east to west.
Not many of those guys are used to playing at that level at 10 in the morning. Okay, so that's what they're being asked to do. It's crazy that the Jaguars were a 3-point dog to the Chargers. Now, of course, everybody's off the Chargers because they're not going to be able to understand that narrative. But that's been proven since the beginning of the NFL. That's a horrible spot is the West Coast team going to. But from a pure numbers, I would object. I'm not going to be against you on that one, but I don't like it. I'll start off with Pittsburgh. Wow, are we generous? +3 against the Bears. Ken, for us from Chicago, is there anybody that has owned Chicago more than Aaron Rodgers? Please stand up. Is there any athlete that you can think of, Chicago fan, that has owned you more than Aaron Rodgers in the history of the city? I can't. I'm sure I'll get a couple of emails or texts from it, but Aaron Rodgers is going to be number 1 and on a bad day, number 2. We don't know if he's going. That's, of course, the big issue. He's got a bad wrist. He went out during the game. In came Mason Rudolph. I'm clearly just assuming that he's going to go. I'm fine if Mason Rudolph goes. I didn't see a drop-off in the second half against Cincy. If you did, I didn't. Mason Rudolph played great. So, but I'm taking Pittsburgh with the full intention that Aaron's going, that it's one of those oh my God moments for Chicago. If anybody can put out the fire that is the Chicago Bears right now, it is Aaron Rodgers. So I'll take Pittsburgh +3.
Yeah, I would have taken him if I had known that Rodgers is playing, because I've seen years and years of Mason Rudolph. He's good when he comes in at a spot start. He's terrible when you ask him to start. So
Have you seen years and years of Rodgers against the Bears?
I have, but I don't trust that Rodgers is playing. And if there was a team he would come out for, but he's got apparently a fracture in his non-throwing hand, which may prevent.
That's good, but that's going to be part of the Chicago narrative because he's going to beat us with one hand.
That would track for him. I mean, if there was any game he would come out for, it's Chicago. I know he does that, that Mr. Championship belt thing. So I had him circled, and I was just like, I just don't. If there's one thing I've learned not to trust, besides Aaron Rodgers' theories on 9/11, or it's his injury history. And remember, we spent an entire Jet season being told, oh, he's coming back. He was never coming back from an Achilles injury. So that's what scared me off, because Aaron Rodgers is a liar, and we all know that. So
Go with another one.
I like the pick, and if it's Roger, you're going to look smart because that line's going up.
The line's going to go down.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to your favor.
Yeah.
So it'll go down to maybe pick him if he's playing and they know it. Because I don't trust the Bears. They find ways to win, so they are a team of destiny. And I think the destiny is to get crushed in the playoffs. But my next pick, I'm taking the. Oh God! I mean, I just looked. I must be a glutton for punishment. I must have secretly enjoyed going 0-3. So I'm taking the Falcons -1.5 versus the Saints. Penix has been bad all year. He's probably done for the year. This is his other knee. He had, I think, his right knee surgically repaired twice in college. This is his left knee. That's a deep bone bruise. Kirk Cousins looks washed. The Saints are coming off a bye. Everything is in the Saints' favor. The Falcons, you would think, would be playing to lose because they would help them with their draft pick. But of course, those idiots traded their draft pick away during the offseason to the Rams. And the Rams are looking at a top 8 pick right now. So the Falcons have everything to play for. I mean, and you can still get into the playoffs in the NFC South. I mean, as bad as that conference is, and that includes my Bucs, the Falcons can get in. And I'm telling you, I do not trust the Saints. I think that we got their best game against Carolina, but Carolina's hot garbage as far as I'm concerned. This is always a huge rivalry game. These two fan bases hate each other, even more so than I hate the Saints or the Falcons. But I'm taking the Falcons -1.5 because I think that you can run on the Saints, and I just don't trust Stuck. And I think Stuck we're going to see who he is. And I think if you can get pressure, and Atlanta's defense, the one thing they have been doing is getting pressure. Shuck under pressure will crumble. So that was my philosophy in taking the Falcons. I mean, I might as well hold my nose doing it. So
once again, my objection to that pick is when I looked at it, I saw the corollary, the 2.0 of Cleveland versus the Jets, where when the Jets made their trades, the line moved 4.5 points. So here we go again, where there's been a huge line move. That game opened up at like New Orleans -2.5. Now it's Atlanta -1.5. And it's because I guess Penix is out. So I think that's a real big over appreciation of Penix to Kirk Cousins. So I don't like that kind of reaction. Not one of my picks, but that's my problem. Is it's a big line. Like I said, it just reminded me of Cleveland versus the Jets, where the Jets needed those 2 special teams touchdowns to get the victory. I know it's not pretty if you were on the other side, but they still get the victory.
56 yards passing.
Right.
54 yards passing, and you win.
Right. No, they were actually right to move out the line. Hopefully you'll be right with this Atlanta thing. I'll tell you where I'm going with the second one. Great big public narrative. This is another one that ESPN is is just pounding down Joe Public's brain is how great Seattle is on the road this season versus at home. That's true, but it's a tiny sample size. So we got to finish that sentence out. Jersey wearer, hat on backwards. It's a tiny sample size. We are into week 12, which means they've had maybe 6 games on the road. And yes, Mike McDonald team, for whatever reason, has played better on the road than at home. Here we go with what I would consider the unbelievable overvaluation. We've got their narrative at play, which is Seattle's better on the road and home. And where are they going? Tennessee. So that's a team, of course, that Joe Public is never going to bet. They will walk off a bridge before they will bet Tennessee. Ever. They will not bet me versus Scotty Scheffler in golf, even though I'm a 12 handicap. And if I'm given 35 strokes, I become golf.
I'm still taking Scotty.
Okay. Well, I'm not, but that's fine. I mean, that would be, there's many more like you that I would need to get 100 strokes from Scotty Scheffler before they would bet a 12 index. So I use that same thing with Tennessee. The public's never going to bet Tennessee. We know that. So it's just a matter of how far the house will take that line with Tennessee against Tennessee. And that's the value a smart player is going to get. Well, of course, they won't go to 14. We're going to go right to 13.5 because smart guy gets involved at 14. I think 13.5 is more than enough with Tennessee at this juncture of the season. I also think that narrative of Seattle being good on the road, not as good at home. They've been good all year.
He is 11-12 as a head coach over 2 seasons on the road. But and I will say this, Ward had his best game last week. That's what scared me away from it against a very good defense. So, I mean, Seattle is almost in the class of Denver and Houston, and he played well in that game. I mean, he brought them all the way back. It was a closer game than anyone predicted it to be. So I that's what scared me away from it. And a lot of what Seattle has done when they played these bad teams is they've gotten up early. I mean, there's been a couple of games when you turn on the Arizona game, the New Orleans game. They were scoring.
And they let the foot off the pedal.
But they had 2 defensive touchdowns in that game. They had 2 special team touchdowns in the Saints game. And so some of that is not recreatable. And, Darnold has had 9 turnovers in the last 2 games. I mean, and, we're starting to see ghost Darnold, where he starts to see ghosts. But the problem is they do worry me, Seattle, is because they seem like the team that can beat up a good team and do it, but 13.5 is a lot of points, especially at home.
The sharpest place that I follow and that I track, and I track a lot of books, Mike, and all over the world. And the place that I review as the sharpest of sharp, and they open this game at 12. So they're not letting their guys, their gals, their people, their syndicates get anything more. I'm sure that the line has moved, but I'm just telling you what they opened it at. They were unafraid to let a syndicate walk in and take Seattle minus 12. So I think 13.5 is a ton of value with Tennessee in this spot. Now, DraftKings, again, folks, for the numbers, for those of you that don't follow us every single week, we go by DraftKings number. DraftKings is the opposite end of the world from the place I'm referring to. They are the squarest place on earth. So they've got people that, their clientele, like FanDuel, are going to get their information from ESPN, and they're going to go, they will die before they will buy Tennessee. Is that a true statement, Mike?
I keep waiting to get a sponsorship since I'm the squarest person here. So,
I mean, but when would a square guy ever have Tennessee?
In this situation, I just stay away from big lines because the back door is always open, and really with Tennessee, I do think Tennessee and Oakland are 2 of the worst rosters in the league. I mean, and by like a wide margin. So that's what always scares me. And Cam Ward, you know, he's gonna. I have not given up on him. I still think they need to develop around him. They don't have good skill players. The kid from Stanford is starting to play better, but I just the reason I didn't take him is because I think what Seattle has done in those games where they've jumped out is not something that's sustainable. I mean, you're adding 14 points in special teams and defense in 2 games where it looks like they're blowing teams out when they're really not doing it as much, because I still don't think they can run the ball effectively. So if I was going to take it, I would probably take 13.5, but it's just, I don't want anything on Tennessee if I can help it, even at 13.5.
I got you. Go on. What's your last one?
All right, my last one is, again, just pure betrayal on my part. I'm taking the Rams -6.5 versus the Bucks. I have the Bucks are now being 2 games on the road. They're asked to go all the way across the country. They have played against good teams, and when they played against good teams, Seattle was the one game, and a lot of their games have been very fluky, in my opinion. A lot of their wins have been fluky. Their defense is, Buffalo does not have anywhere near the capacity at wide receiver that Los Angeles does. And I think Stafford is playing at as high of a level of quarterback as anyone in the league. And Los Angeles probably needs the game more than Tampa does. And I know that sounds crazy when Tampa's 0-2, but Tampa's still in first place. Even if they lose, they will be in first place or tied for first place with Carolina. The rest of their schedule is really easy. I don't like having the hook. I don't like betting against the Bucks, but I'm a realist. And if I'm trying to get back on the winning side, I'm going to go against my favorite team. So I'm taking the Rams -6.5.
I talked about this with Michael offline. The last one for me was tricky. I was down to 2 teams. You know that I'm a huge believer in key numbers. Both benefit from a key number in the spot. The 2 games I was between were Vegas over Cleveland -3. Folks, again, it's 6:10 on Tuesday night. I know the whole market is 3.5. DraftKings at 3. So we're not like finagling. I send Mike updates throughout the day if the line moves so that we can keep it as relative and spot on to the market. We're not trying to shave a half point. I can't stand that. I wouldn't want to listen to a draft. I wouldn't want to listen to a podcast where they didn't recognize that. So the truth is,
I think you do it just to rattle me, so that I am having to calculate my numbers, which I don't do at all.
Well, so DraftKings at 3. So this is how my brain kind of worked. It, Mike, was it DraftKings was 3 with Vegas. What's more appetizing? Laying 3 with Vegas against Cleveland, Shedeur getting his first start, or getting 7 whole markets at 6.5 with Carolina on Monday night against San Francisco. I'm literally 50-50 up until we hit the record button on this podcast. I didn't share this with you, Mike, but earlier in the day, and this is what kind of helped me make my final decision, I don't remember where I read it. It was online. It was an article, but some article made the reference and felt compelled to tell the Wally Pipp story as it relates to Lou Gehrig in 1925. Okay, so what ended up happening was, it might have been the World Series, it might have been the regular season, but let's just assume it was the World Series. We all know who Lou Gehrig is. And Wally Pipp, I guess, said, I have a headache. And he sat out the game over a headache, and Lou went in. Lou never looked back. Okay, so the author of the article was trying to make the similarity between that's going to be the Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders story. Is that, but the thing is that Dylan Gabriel surely didn't go out with a headache. So that's your first part of history that we need to understand. And
but it was a concussion.
Yeah. Little different than Wally Pipp saying, I've got a hang toenail, I'm going to sit this one out. And the idea in my brain that somebody could make a leap of faith that Shedeur Sanders might be as generational as Lou Gehrig put me on Vegas -3 over Cleveland. Just the idiocy that there are people out there that are that stupid that could honestly go that far with a guy that's borderline taxi squad. Borderline. Get over it. Get over Mel Kiper's prognostication. People miss. He's missed on this kid until proven differently. Carolina's a team I love. I think they're the same team as the Bears. Mike knows that. Problem with them as we get into week 12, I'm happy that both teams are having good years, is the Bears have proven that they can string multiple wins. I think the Bears are on a 7-game winning streak right now. Carolina can't win 2 games in a row. So my long-winded judgment is I'll be on Vegas -3 over Cleveland. I don't know, Mike.
I don't know that you could say either one of those guys is Wally Pipp. Is good enough to be Wally Pipp. I mean, Gill and Dabra. It's like the Dylan Gabriel era. Are we going to remember it fondly? I mean, he's not going to be on that. He is a career backup, and I completely agree that Shedeur Sanders looks in way over his head. He holds the ball way too long. He took the most sacks of anyone in college. Yeah. He drops back. That doesn't work in the NFL. Everything is timing and rhythm. And
he's Caleb Williams from last season, but Caleb Williams twice his size, twice his arm strength. But Caleb Williams took like 61 sacks last season. I mean, he couldn't get rid of it because the game was too fast for him. And just the idea, Mike, that's just the world we live in where you have to parse out that kind of idiocy, that someone who hasn't started a game yet is being compared to an iconic generational stud like Gehrig is so stupid that it got me on Vegas.
Yeah, and, Caleb at least is athletic. Shedeur is not athletic, despite his father being one of the greatest athletes of our era. He is not athletic at all. He can't move. Caleb at least, you see Caleb get out of the pocket. He's able to avoid. So Max Crosby, I would look at taking over 2.5 sacks against him because all that guy does is take sacks. So
they brought Gehrig. Yeah, they brought Gehrig out of the grave, Mike. If they brought Gehrig out of the grave and started him on Sunday, I think I'd be on Cleveland.
I would probably go against that, but I'm not a necrophile like yourself. So, but I think the reason I stayed away from it was because I still think the Cleveland defense is the superior unit. That's the only reason. But they're a different unit at home than they are on the road, weirdly. But and Vegas, you get no home field advantage. I mean, I can almost imagine that will be dog pound west.
Yeah.
So that's what scared me a little bit. But trust me, I'm going to be coming after Shedeur. There's not a number you can put high enough for me to go against Shedeur.
Couldn't agree more. So my 3 picks are Pittsburgh +3 over the Bears. No, not 2.5 for people that ping me about this, okay? No, not 2.5, 3. So it's not an unequivocal love for Pittsburgh. It's an unequivocal love for the idea that Rodgers is starting and getting a key number for those that need to know me better. So Pittsburgh +3, Tennessee +13.5 over Seattle. No, not 13. Definitely no, not 12.5. Tennessee +13.5. Lastly, Vegas -3, potentially -3.5. Potentially -3.5 because I just don't think 3 is realistic. And when people watch this on Saturday night or Sunday morning, they're never going to have a chance to have Vegas -3 potentially. I'm with Mike and what he just said. I'm going to let Shedeur Sanders show me one. Yes, I also agree with Mike. The place could be dog pound west 2.0, but I always try to make analogies of what we saw the Steelers put 90% into the stadium at SoFi against the Chargers in that Sunday night game. It didn't help. I'm fading Shedeur until he proves me wrong. So those are my picks.
And I took the poo-poo platter of all teams that just pure betrayal picks, but I took the Jags -2.5, Falcons -1.5, and the Rams -6.5.
May it be a
Feel good about any of them. Don't feel good about any of them.
folks, he's a 58% player. He's self-deprecating. I'm a 48% player. Take the information as you will. The sample size is solid. There are 33 games on both of our cards. Rewind the tape if you are so inclined. Subscribe to Taking It to the Streets, and we will see you again in Week 13. Thank you, Jose Cruz Junior. Goodbye from St. Pete. And remember, folks, you're only as good as your last trade, so never too high, never too low, till we meet again.